Hello and welcome to the Cleveland Curmudgeon Real Estate Academy. This is going to be a short video that walks you through how to find and analyze a single family rental that will be profitable and that will cash flow every single month. There's a download link below. Click that to download a PDF of the house that we'll be investigating and also a copy of the Excel file that we'll be using in order to analyze these deals. Let's do a quick overview of how we're going to find these deals. So step one is going to be find an area. I like to use zip code because that filters it down pretty tight for me. Step two, find a type of house. We are going to be using a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, but you can filter by any combination of bedrooms and baths and also by the type. Step three, figure out rents. Google, Craigslist, Zillow, call a management company, or there's some paid services out there like Rentometer. And step four, use a spreadsheet to find range of price versus rents versus expenses that will cash flow. We're going to spend the bulk of our time here in step four manipulating our price and our rents and our expenses in order to find a house that will cash flow and be profitable. Step five is up to you. You need to practice and practice often. Run the numbers on multiple deals per day and picture this like a big filtering mechanism. You're going to run the numbers on like 100 using the spreadsheet. Based on those 100, you might find 10 that are worth walking. Of those 10, you might offer on 2 to eventually buy 1. So step 1 is using the spreadsheet to quickly analyze the numbers on those 100 so that you can walk a couple and eventually offer on 1 to get a single deal. Let's take a quick walk through the spreadsheet to see what we're going to use to find our deal. We have only a few sections. We have inputs, income, expenses, and then at the bottom our profitability, which is going to be our cash flow. And then at the top I also have cash flow and then cash on cash, which is our percentage. I just like to have this up here so that when I'm manipulating numbers in the inputs I can see the change right away. And then the spreadsheet has boxes and highlights where I want you to fill in your inputs. So like our list price, if it's 100,000, when you type that in, that's going to affect all these other formulas downstream, and it's going to spit out our cash flow and our cash on cash. The last thing to mention is CAPEX and maintenance drivers. So CAPEX rate is 10%, maintenance reserve rate is 10%. These percentages are going to drive the dollar amounts of our CAPEX and our maintenance reserve based on our rents. So when we type in a rent, it's automatically going to calculate 10% of this rent and type it in for our CAPEX, and the same thing for the maintenance reserve. Whatever's here percentage wise is what it's going to put in right here for our maintenance reserve. I'm just going to do a quick overview of steps 1, 2, and 3, and then we're going to spend most of our time on step 4, which is using the spreadsheet. So when you're trying to find a deal, the first thing is to pick an area. Like I said, I like to use zip code just because one city may have multiple zip codes. So I can filter more specifically by that zip code rather than just the whole city. And then I also did a 3-bed, 1+ bath. So that'll give me a 3-1, it'll give me a 3-1.5, a 3-2. And Zillow will just spit out all the current listings and you can click on it from there to get the information you need for the spreadsheet. And then probably the better way to do things is to get an agent and have them send you listings from the MLS. So this is like a snapshot of what some of the MLS listing will look like. And again, this is in my area, 44109, the zip code. It's a 3-1, so we search 3 bedrooms, we have 1 bath. And then this is a recently sold property just so we can see the list price versus the sold price and some of the other details. All right, let's jump into step 4. I kind of skipped over 3, figure out rents, but I'm just going to plug these in and sort of leave it up to you guys to use Zillow or Craigslist or call a management company. So step 4, we're going to use a spreadsheet to find a range of price versus rents versus expenses that will cash flow. All that really means is we're going to type in the inputs from the listing right here into our spreadsheet, and then we're going to play with the numbers to get to monthly annual cash flow that makes us happy, as well as a cash on cash percentage, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. So again, the spreadsheet is fairly simple. I have boxed and highlighted areas where you need to type something in, and then these other areas like max offer price, that's going to be driven by a formula and it's going to auto calculate. So we really need to go through, fill in everything that's in these boxes, and then it's going to spit out our profitability and everything else we need to know. So let's start filling in the spreadsheet. Our first item is list price under inputs, and we are just going to get this from our listing. Our list price is $135. We'll type that into the top. If you're using Zillow, just do the same thing. What is the house listed as? And we're going to track that up at the top as list price. And list price is also the number that is going to drive our cash flow, our cash on cash, and all these other metrics further down in the spreadsheet. The next is ARV, which stands for after repair value. So if you're doing a fixer upper, the after repair value is how much the house will sell for once it's all fixed up. And you get the ARV by looking at comps. So your real estate agent could find 2, 3, 4 comps, which is just a comparable property or a house that's similar to the one you're looking at and what it sold for. So our ARV on this is the same as the list price because this is a sold property, so we can see what it is. That also tells us that this house was probably in pretty good shape, or it was priced correctly, right? There was no discount. And typing in the ARV is going to give us our max offer price, which is tied to a formula that is just the ARV times 0.7. So our max offer is anchored to 70% of the market value of the property. And that builds in a cushion for us when we're buying the house. Next is mortgage info, our percent down. I'm going to start with 20%, but you could do whatever, whatever you think you're going to use. And that will spit out the down payment amount, which is $27,000 based on a $135,000 price. And our loan or debt will be $108,000. Interest rate, I'm going to use 7. That might be a bit high, but I'd rather, underwrite high than low. You need to call multiple lenders to get an interest rate. You need to get the best rate, and you also need to see what rate you're going to get based on your credit score and other stuff. Next, line 15 is cost of repairs. This is only if we have a fixer-upper. The house I'm using is in good shape, and I don't anticipate any repairs right away. But if we were buying a house that needed work, we want to type an estimate in here of how much it would cost to fix it up. And that is just going to give us this number here, which is cash or savings required. This is just our down payment, $27,000, plus our cost of repairs. So that tells me I need at least $32,000 savings to be able to purchase this house to make it ready to rent. We'll leave this blank for this house. That leaves us with length of mortgage. I typically use 30 years. You could do 15, and there's adjustable rate mortgages and other stuff like that too. But we'll use 30, and that spits out our monthly mortgage payment. So we're going to be at $718 or $8,600 a year. And this payment, this is just our interest and our principal that we're paying the bank. Your whole mortgage payment is also going to include property taxes and insurance, but we account for those things down here under expenses. Okay, our next section is going to be income. This is a single family rental, so we're only going to have income for unit A, really. I'm going to type in $1,200 here. So again, we're going to fill in the shaded boxes. So 1,200 is going to be automatically calculated to be 14,000 annual. Now unit B is here if you're doing a duplex, or you could also add any other number of units you want below this. Now we could also use it for something like a pet fee, because here we want to get our gross rental income, which is like all the possible income I could get from this unit. Now, if it's a larger building, that typically includes laundry or like parking. For a single family, it's usually just this. But, if we want to underwrite for like a pet fee also, let's put 75 bucks there. Now our total gross rental income is going to be $1,275. Then below that, I have a vacancy rate of 8%. That is just 1 over 12. So I took 1 month. That equals 8%. And, that's just conservative underwriting. If I rent this out for my first year, and then let's say the person doesn't renew their lease, they might move out, and it's going to take me, worst case, a month to make some repairs and find a new tenant. So again, we just want to underwrite conservatively, and this 8% is going to be applied to the gross of $1,275, and that turns into $1,173 monthly. For now, I'm going to take out the pet fee. We'll just keep this as unit B, so it's going to be blank. So if we have 1,200 bucks a month income, the take-home income that we're projecting is going to be just above 1,100 bucks. Again, that's conservative. We always want to underwrite like a conservative situation so that if things turn against us and we get into a bad situation, we've already accounted for it here in the spreadsheet and we should be okay. All right, let's move on to our next section, which is going to be expenses. The first one is going to be property taxes, and again, we're filling in the shaded boxes. So we're going to go from annual to monthly for property taxes. And if we look back at our MLS listing, the taxes are going to be right here, $29.61. So we'll type that in, $29.61 turns into $246 a month approximately. Insurance, you should call an agent to get this. I'm typically like 800 to 1,000 for an insurance on a property in this area with this size. So, those are annual premiums you'll get quoted on. That's why I do the annual and divide back into the monthly. Same thing with property taxes. Where I live, you pay twice a year, so 2 installments of 6 months, but they quote you the annual rate. Next, utilities. On a single family rental, I'm not going to pay any utilities. The tenant is going to have gas, electric, internet, cable, water in their name. So I leave this blank for utilities. If it's a duplex or larger units, you typically have to pay for some, if not all of those expenses. Property management, I'm going to leave this blank. If you're going to fill it in, I go from monthly and use that to get the annual number. The next section is CAPEX, or long-term repairs. And the CAPEX is going to be driven, number one, by this percentage. I have 10% here. And the 10% is being multiplied by our net rental income, which, if we remember, is our gross, and then minus a vacancy rate of 8%. So this 1,100 is going to be multiplied by 10%, which is going to give me 110 per month for long-term repairs. Now, a CAPEX is something that is a long-term, a bigger item. So picture a roof. The roof takes 30 years to wear out, and that gives you 30 years to save for it so that you can replace that big item one time. Same thing like a furnace. A furnace is going to last you a long time. It's going to require one big one big spending of cash flow in order to replace it, and it's going to last for a long time. So we need to keep this in mind and be putting aside reserves for these bigger repairs that are eventually going to happen. And again, we'll use 10% to drive that. We also use, I use 10% maintenance reserve when I'm underwriting this stuff. It's the same thing. I'm going to take 10%, multiply it by my net rental income. So that's going to give me 110.4 per month. And I actually usually do a little higher for CAPEX. So I try to be like 25% of my rental income just when I'm starting out in underwriting. And this total savings for repair here is the combination of the two. So when I add my CAPEX, 165 plus my maintenance, 110, that's going to be 276, or about 3,300 per year. Now, after I underwrite this and I'm starting with the percentages, now I need to apply some common sense to this $3,300 a year number. Up at the top, we said this is listed at 135, ARV is 135. It's in good shape, so it's not going to need a lot of repairs. We looked at sort of the exterior and I saw interior pictures. So like, let's say, for example, let's say this roof is only 10 years old, okay? A roof should last us 25 to 30 years. So we're going to say our roof is 10 years old. Let's say it's going to last 25. We'll be conservative. So I have 15 years of time to save. Now, a roof is going to cost me $6,000. So I have $6,000 that I need to spend at some point. So 6,000. So I'm going to take my 6,000 divided by 15 years. I need to save $400 a year conservatively over 15 years to get this $6,000. Now, I'm saving 3,300. 2,000 of that is my CAPEX, right? So if I know that 400 of my CAPEX is going to be going just to this roof, then I'm saving an additional 1,600 total. That seems like a lot for this house, right? Especially if I know the furnace is going to cost 3,000, this other stuff's going to cost whatever. I can look at my percentage and adjust it up or down based on the house. So if I think that 15% is a lot, let me put it down to 10. Okay, 13. My biggest expense is going to be this roof in 15 years, and all I need is 400 a month. I probably only need about $1,000 a month on my CAPEX, we'll say, for this house. So I want to put this down to 8%. So now I'm saving 2,300 a year. 13 is going to go to my maintenance. That's probably like more accurate. So that's just the way that you want to apply common sense to these sort of big picture like percentages that are a good starting place, but they're not going to work every single time for every single house you do. So, once you have a specific house in mind, then you want to do kind of a more detailed, like, okay, how much do I actually need to save? The other way to do it is just to say, like, hey, I want $5,000 in the bank, period, for every house I have. And then once once you have that 5,000, you can sort of turn off this capex and maintenance and just take that extra cash flow. So whatever works. All right, if we look at if our profitability here, now that we've filled everything in, it's not looking too good. $44 a month or $500 a year in cash flow. So let's go up to the top, and here's where we're gonna really work step 4, and we're gonna mess with all these inputs until we can get a decent cash flow and cash on cash number. Now I just had these hidden so they wouldn't distract us, but this cash flow is the same as this. I just like to have it up top so I can look at it right away. And let's like look at what actually is cash flow. So this is just taking this cell here, and this cell is B. Here's the subtraction, right? B27 is our rental income. We're going to subtract out our expenses, which is B37, and then we're going to subtract out our mortgage payment. So cash flow is just the rental income you're bringing in minus your expenses, and will include our debt, right? So if we didn't have a mortgage, that would be one thing that we're not taking out, and our cash flow should be higher. Um, and then cash on cash, this formula looks a little more complicated, but it's really not that crazy. So um, our cash on cash is just our annual cash flow. So if we go down to our C42, that's our annual cash flow. And we're dividing this by the total amount of money we've invested, which we said before would be the down payment and our cost of repairs if we took any money out of our pocket to repair this thing. So the cash on cash return is just what am I getting? What's my return, which is this annual cash flow, divided by what did I put into this, which is my down payment and any other cost of repairs that I did. So we can see that this is not a deal the way we have all the numbers currently. So I'm going to put my percent down to 20. That's like where I start. That gave us negative cash flow. So when we first looked at this, I talked about our max offer price should be this 94.5, right? We want to pay 70% of the list price. So why don't I start there? We can always adjust our price, right? You can send out 20 offers, lowball all those offers, and if somebody takes one, then you're in business. So if we get to our 70% ARV, now we're like sort of in the ballpark. I'm getting 80 a month. That's still not like spectacular. It's a 5% cash on cash return. Um, and then we can adjust our down payment. So what if I put 30% down? Now my cash flow went up and my cash on cash went up, which is interesting. I'm taking more money out of my pocket, and I'm still getting a better return even though I'm putting more money into this. What if I bump it up to 40? Now the cash flow went up and the cash on cash didn't go up as much, I don't think. So what if we go to 50? Yeah, like if we notice now my cash on cash is not really going anywhere. So 30 to 35% kind of seems like where we want to be. 30%, 6%. Okay. So I've maxed out the gains I can get by putting more money into this is what we're looking at. So interest rate, we can't really manipulate that. That's sort of up to the market and our credit score. But um, I like to know what, what's my interest rate that I need to get if I've messed with all these other variables and I can't do anything else. So what if I could even get like 6.5, half a percent better? Okay, that bumped my cash on cash to 7. So if I can get a half a percent better interest rate, it's going to be worth it for my current prices. But we'll keep it at 7 for now. That's really it in terms of these inputs up here that we can mess with. Um, the next big one obviously should be rental income, right? So we conservatively said 1200. Now, what if I can put in granite countertops? So let's say it's going to cost me 2000 to put in granite. Cash on cash went down, but I can rent it for 1300 now. Oh, my cash on cash went back up to 8%. So this shows me a small upfront investment to get better rents is going to be worth it. And again, like that's the value of this spreadsheet. You can make tiny little tweaks in this spreadsheet and look at your returns over like the long period and make a much better decision. And it cost you nothing. It took 4 seconds to plug this in to see if it's worth it. Um, Second thing, like maybe I can charge pet rent, right? What if I can charge 75 bucks a month, 900 a year on my pet rent? Now I'm getting 10% a year, okay? Like I've just sort of now I've reached where I like this as a deal, okay? I'm going to get 275 a month cash flow. I'm going to get 10% return on my money. This looks like now I'm ready to pay these prices, okay? So let's keep going because there's one big driver here. My biggest expense is going to be my property taxes. And this 2961 is based on this $135,000 value, but I paid less than that. So I paid way less than how much I'm currently being taxed on. I think this is going to make my taxes like $2,000. Now I'm getting 355 a month, 14%. All day I'm ready to buy this deal now because my taxes are going to be lower, insurance doesn't really change. Um, yeah, I mean, but again, this is the value of this spreadsheet. We can make these adjustments. We can do like a big 10,000 foot view, use my 15% CAPEX, 10% maintenance, all these other numbers. And now we can go like line by line and see how I can affect these numbers and how I can get a better return. And then I won't go over CAPEX and maintenance again, but right, we already lowered this 8%. So if we had stayed at the 15, how does that now we're back down to 10% cash on cash versus the 8 is 14%. So we can see that makes a big difference, but I'm also confident in this 8% number because I did some math about the roof and I think I only need 1200 a year. My maintenance is probably kind of high too. What if I bring this down to 8%? Now we're getting 380 a month, 15%. I think it's looking like a pretty good deal. Let's keep going. Next is property taxes. Now, the good thing about paying 70% of your ARV is that your taxes should go down, right? At least where I am. So, where I live, the county does like an audit of the neighborhood and does an average like price sold thing to figure out the prices. But basically, if we paid 70%, then we should get like 70% of these taxes. My taxes should go down to like $2,000. So now we account for that when we adjust our offer price, and I'm getting way better cash on cash, obviously. So that's like another benefit of I'd rather buy a fixer upper, get a way smaller price, like um, come out of pocket for a bunch of repairs because that's going to affect my biggest expense, which is taxes. So it's helping me get a better return, even though like the amount of money I put into the deal might be the same. And we already talked about the CapEx and maintenance, so I think we probably maxed those out. But let's just say if 1200 is kind of where I see my CapEx, then 1500 a year maintenance is probably high. So maybe we take this down to like 8, and now we're getting 15%, 380. I think that's a good deal. But yeah, the last thing to be said is just think about what we did. We went through one time, plugged everything in with like our general how we think it's going to play out. Then we made an adjustment down on the price. We added our granite counter for 2000. adjusted our rents upward, added a pet fee, lowered our taxes, and doing all these things, which, I don't think we're being crazy here. We've made adjustments based on the scenario to everything. The list price maybe is crazy, right? That if they offered 135 and they got 135, okay, that might be crazy. But the point is, if you send out 20 offers using the 70%, like, that's where you see it. And that's where you see the good investors are patient because they know this number, and they keep sending their offer until they get their price because they know what they need to make these cash metrics work out. And finally, let's just take a second to review the process. Step one, we found an area. I used zip code. Step two, we found a type of house. I used a 3-1 Cape Cod. We figured out our rents. I started with 1,200 and then we adjusted upwards. And four is where the bulk of our time was spent. We used the spreadsheet to find one, we found the price, and then we adjusted our rents. And then based on the price and the rents, we adjusted our expenses and our CAPEX and maintenance in order to get to a nice cash flow number and a nice cash on cash return number. Now, step five is just up to you. You have the spreadsheet, open up Zillow or call an agent, get some houses, and just type in some numbers multiple times a day until you feel confident with the area that you're looking in and the price that you can get for a rental property. This was a quick overview of the deal analysis process. If you'd like to continue learning with similar content, go to ccrealestateacademy.thinkific.com. I have a course called Real Estate Spreadsheet Analysis 101. In the course, I offer in-depth explanations of each of the line items in the spreadsheet. There are built-in reviews to help you track your understanding and progress, and I walk you through some scenarios and examples. This course is intended for newer investors so that you feel comfortable using the spreadsheet and confident that you are buying a profitable investment.